is Rachel, and today I'm giving you some recommendations that are available right now to borrow on Hoopla Digital. Hoopla is an app that a lot of libraries use that allow you to access digital content. They have ebooks, movies, comics, audiobooks, TV, etc. And the nice thing about Hoopla is you can borrow them immediately with no hold list. Sometimes libraries do have a limit to how many you can borrow those, so definitely check with your library. And if your library doesn't offer Hoopla, definitely check out another local library and see if they have access. A lot of libraries right now are also offering free temporary digital cards that you can use to access apps like Hoopla. So all of these titles today are going to be available immediately on Hoopla. And if you'd like more recommendations, definitely check out my Instagram at Rachael Fryman for daily recommendations, usually available on the Hoopla app. So basically what I did is I just kind of scoured the app and found some books that I really liked that were available on there. So I kind of have originally it was going to be like a top 10, but I just couldn't narrow it down. So it's going to be basically like a top 20 list in no particular order. So here we go. First up is one of my favorite books of last year, and that was In the Hall with a Knife. And this book is amazing. It's based on the traditional board game Clue, and it's going to be a series. I believe there's going to be at least 3 books in the series, and I cannot wait for the second one to come out. They're so much fun. It's just what you would want from a YA book based on the board game. It's angsty, it's suspenseful, it's got little allusions to the game, and I just thought it was fantastic. So this is available now. Definitely go give it a read. Next up is a middle grade book by Neil Gaiman. It's called The Graveyard Book. Now there are several ways you can access this. There's one that is read just by Neil Gaiman, and there is one that is read by a full cast, and I believe there's also just an ebook format so you can read it yourself, but however you take this book in, it's really, really good. The beginning scene is pretty grisly, so definitely hang in there for the beginning scene. Essentially, it's like a full-on murder scene at the beginning. This whole family is slaughtered by this unknown man, but the little tiny baby is able to escape. He crawls out the door, escapes the murderer, and crawls into the cemetery, and basically that begins the plot of our book. The ghosts in the cemetery kind of take ownership of this baby, and they're raising him, and it's just, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm so excited that anybody could read this book now on Hoopla. Next is a YA book that is definitely dark. So if you don't like dark books, steer clear of this one. The book is called Sadie, and it is part true crime podcast and part first-person account of what actually happened to the girl that has gone missing. And it is dark and twisty, but it will keep you going until the very last page. So definitely get that on your radar. But again, be warned, it gets super dark. But 100% you will love it if you like true crime podcasts. Next up is a much lighter YA book. This is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. And I'll just go ahead and say, any Sandhya Menon book has my stamp of approval. I have yet to read one that I have not loved by Sandhya Menon. She's fantastic. But in this particular book, we have 2 Indian American teenagers. We have Dimple, whose heart is set on being really the next up-and-coming female coder, and she is really looking forward to attending a summer program that is very techy. And we also have Rishi, who has decided to allow his parents to set him up with a future bride that they deem acceptable. So they have chosen Dimple. Now Dimple's parents and Rishi's parents and Rishi are all in on it. However, Dimple has not been informed. So when Rishi shows up on the scene at this camp and basically starts referring to her as his future wife, she is kind of insulted and alarmed and throws her coffee in his face and runs. So that is our meet cute for these two, and oh, I love it. It's amazing. It's adorable. Definitely read it. And perfect for girls who are into STEM. I just really like that aspect that we have a female lead who is very engaged in her own interest and not just in this boy. Love that feature in this book. It's fantastic. Next up, we're going to swing back to the hard-hitting. This is a nonfiction adult title, and again, very hard-hitting, but very important title. This is The Blood of Emmett Till. whew, this is such a hard read. Here we are listening to really the story of a boy named Emmett Till who was brutally murdered, basically just for being a black boy who allegedly whistled at a white girl. And I mean, it's just a horrific story, but again, just a really important one. It's very detailed and deep and just heart-wrenching, and it's just a good listen, hard listen, but it's a very good one. And that's The Blood of Emmett Till. Next is a book series that I recommend all the time at my high school, and this is a YA sci-fi fantasy novel. It's called The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. This is a series. The first book is probably my favorite, and it's really fascinating. I love this world. I love the dystopian elements. I just really liked our main character. There's a love interest in there that I'm obsessed with, and I just think it's a fantastic book, and that's The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. Next up is a graphic novel that I love and I think is fantastic. I highly recommend for people who like the good versus evil characterizations, and that's Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is fantastic. It's so cute. It's a great storyline. It is kind of unexpected. Like, nothing that I expected really happened, but I really enjoyed everything that did happen. And if you've never tried a graphic novel, this might be a good one to start with. It's just a fantastic story. And if you do like graphic novels and you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for? Next up is something funny if you're in the mood to laugh, and that is Yes Please by Amy Poehler. This is just a fantastic little celebrity memoir. She is very funny. If you like anything that Amy Poehler has done, I think you'll really like this. Even if you haven't seen anything by Amy Poehler, if you're ready for a laugh, I would definitely give this a listen. Next up is another kind of dystopian alternative history, very dark YA read, and that is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. They also just added the sequel, which is Deathless Divide, so this is kind of a twofer, but oh my gosh, so amazing. It's basically reimagining the Civil War, but where the two sides have to stop fighting each other to fight all the undead soldiers rising up as zombies. And it is fantastic. Highly recommend it. It's action-packed, it's gory, it's dark, it's kind of funny, it's so entertaining, very fast-paced. Highly recommend it. Next up is Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. If you haven't managed to read this mystery yet, I would give it a read because A, it's very interesting, and B, the movie is slated to come out sometime in May. I'm not 100% sure how everything will be affected with the movie, but just know that the movie's supposed to come out soonish, so definitely give this a listen or a read before the movie comes out. Next up is The Little Book of Hygge. I think just Hygge-ing in general would be really nice now while we're quarantining. It's just trying to make life really cozy and comfortable and just the best it can be. And I myself have been breaking out the blankets and the candles lately and just trying to make things really cozy while I'm at home. So I definitely would recommend bringing some Hygge to your life. Next up is a YA historical fantasy, I guess. It's called The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and it is so fun. It's just a romp. It's just a romp. It's a fun little romp. There's an adorable male-male romance in this one, and we have a fierce female character that has her own sequel, and it's just amazing. It's fun. Like I said, it's just a romp. So if you're in the mood for a romp, definitely check out Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. And it has an amazing cover. Next up is a quick little read if you're needing a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of positivity in your life, and it is another Neil Gaiman pick, and this one is Art Matters. This is kind of just a collection of like drawings and quotes and essays and poems from Neil Gaiman, but some of them just really resonated with me, and I just found it highly motivating and really uplifting. So if you need a quick read that'll bring up your mood, definitely check this one out. Next up is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I think this is just magical. It's like a romance novel, but like with the magic of like Harry Potter, kind of. But also murder mystery. So there's just a lot happening in this. Essentially, it's like a traveling magical carnival that has a murder mystery plot within it that you have to solve to win the game. Right? Like, of course you want to read that, but it is very romancy, so if you're not in the mood for romance, probably don't pick this one up, but it's still very fascinating. I love the world building, and I just loved how like over the top this was. This is also a series, so definitely check out all 3 books. Next up is one that, oh my gosh, I definitely recommend. I'm so excited, and all of the whole series is on Hoopla, so definitely check them out. This is the Raven Cycle series. The first book is The Raven Boys, and I mean, it's just magic and romance and weirdness and just beautiful writing. It's Maggie Stiefvater, who's one of my favorite writers, and I just can't recommend this YA series enough. It's just beautiful and fun and weird, and I just love it. So again, the first book is The Raven Boys, and all 4 books are available. They're read by Will Patton, and oh, it's perfect for this series. Perfect. Next up is a middle grade book that I really, really recommend for anybody that's interested in history or the current event situation with refugees in general, and that is Refugee by Alan Gratz. Our students here in Ohio have voted it as their favorite book of the year just a couple years ago, and I recommend this to just about anybody because it's really, really fantastic. It really brings 3 stories together. We have 3 kids, all refugees, fleeing kind of a war-torn situation in their own country, and it's like I said, 3 different kids, 3 different countries, 3 different timelines, and they all kind of combine together just to make just a gut-wrenching, heartfelt, interesting story, and it's just so, so good. So good. Check out Refugee by Alan Gratz. Next up is a nonfiction title that'll really make you think, and that is The Psychopath Test by John Ronson. I always want to call him Ron Swanson, which would be awesome if Ron Swanson wrote this, but it's John Ronson, and it's just a fantastic look at psychopathy in our day-to-day lives and how it plays out in the real world, and it's just really fascinating. So if you're really wanting something just to kind of mentally chew on, definitely check out The Psychopath Test. Next up is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is another just fantastical lose yourself in the world scenario. In this book we have 4 parallel Londons, one which basically is kind of just burnt away at this point. The magic has used itself up and kind of consumed itself, so that world really doesn't exist anymore. And we have Grey London, which is basically what we would imagine like our old-timey London to be in our world. Then we have White London that is kind of starved for magic, and it's very like cutthroat. I imagine it to be very like Game of Thronesy. And then we have Red London, which is just flowing with magic and like royals, and it's just really lavish. And we have our main character Kel, who is one of the few people in the universe who can travel between all of these Londons, and just drama ensues. So I would highly recommend this series if you need a little escape. It is fascinating, and this is the first book of 3 in a series, and it just keeps building. The world just keeps growing out. So if you want to get lost in a fantasy series, I would highly recommend A Darker Shade of Magic. Next up is Digital Fortress by Dan Brown. You might have read Dan Brown before, you know, a little book called The Da Vinci Code. Well, those are the famous ones. A lot of people have read those, but not a lot of people have read Digital Fortress. And it is high action. It is like an adult thriller, and it has like a girl, this badass main character who's like a cryptologist who's like ciphering all these codes, and it was just a thrill ride for me. I love this book. I think it would be a really fun book to read right now. And last but not least, I have 2 children's books to recommend. I believe these are available as like movies on Hoopla, to where you can actually see the words and hear the book at the same time, so almost like a read aloud. The first one is Dragons Love Tacos, because this is just a favorite for my kids at school. They love this book. It's so much fun. I just think it's so cute. You could have like a little taco night at home, and I think it would just be a really fun thing to do at home with your kids. The other one is We Don't Eat Our Classmates, because this is such a good book. It's one of my favorites, and there's going to be a sequel coming next year, so definitely give We Don't Eat Our Classmates a try. It's just absolutely adorable. So there you have my really quick rundown of some books available immediately on Hoopla that I think you should be reading. If you need any more specific recommendations, let me know down below. I'd be happy to pick out something that I think that you'll like, and I definitely hope that you're able to use all of your digital resources to keep reading. So let me know down in the comments which of these you've read, which of these you might want to read, and what you're reading right now while you're home quarantined. Let's talk books down in the comments. And that's all I have for today, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye for now.